What's up, guys? How's everyone doing today? I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you're all healthy. Hope you're maybe able to get out and do something that you love. Because guess what? I am doing something I love. I am doing something I love again. You guys all know I try to get out. I try to get out twice a week for a really good hike. Usually one day, I will. Usually one day I'll go out and do like an extreme one, you know, all day, and then another day of the week I'll go out for sort of a half-day hike. And I try to stick with that because for a couple reasons. I love the exercise and I love being out in the woods, especially this time of year. The fall is my absolute favorite, or the winter, I mean. The fall. I love the fall, but I love the winter. And it's cool. It's fun. We finally got some cold temperatures, so it's not cold enough yet, but it's cool. I like it really cold, but right now it's like, I think it's right down around -2 or 3. So that's good. It's nice. It's nice. You think this is steep? That's actually vertical. There's no way I'll get up there, but I'm working my way up the creek here, and eventually it gets a little bit more maneuverable the further we get up. But this is rugged. This spot here is actually one of the most rugged spots that I go into. But I love it. There's a nice little pothole lake up here that's another dynamite fishing lake. The fish aren't really big in this lake up here. I'm not fishing today. I'm just out hiking. And but I have fished it. The fish aren't huge. But there's millions of them. There's so many fish in there. It's crazy. I think this is the spot that I can cut up the mountain here, maybe. This is steep, man, let me tell you. I'm finally back to normal. Finally feeling back to normal. That sickness I had. Holy shit, this is steep. That sickness I had really took its toll on me. And it took forever to get over it. Man. Holy shit. This is vertical. This is straight up and down, man. Anyhow, that's how you get a good leg burn, by hiking this stuff. I want to be careful though, because I don't want to take a spill in here. Holy shit. How many times am I going to say that on this hike? I think I kind of went the wrong way. Oh well. I'm going to try to... Actually, this might be a bit better if I cross over here. I'm going to try to talk to you guys as I hike here a little bit. But... But you don't need to see my ugly mug. I'll turn the camera around so you can see where I'm going here. Wild, eh? Anyways, last video I said, sorry, I didn't mean to leave you guys hanging. But I said, I would tell you the story about the story about the old miner that I ran into, and a whole bunch of people responded in the comments saying you'd love to hear some of the stories of my hunts, some of the things that I've had happen to me over the years. So guess what? Guess what? It's story time. It's story time with Outlaw. So, the old miner that I ran into, that was about almost 30 years ago now. And I was way up in northern British Columbia. I was way up in northern British Columbia, and I was in a little town up there. I'm not going to say the name of the town, but I was in a little town up there, right on the BC Yukon border, as far north in British Columbia as you can get before getting into the Yukon. And I had stopped for fuel, and I was going into an area that I'd only been into once before in my life. And I ran into a conservation officer, a game warden, at the gas station. I was talking to him, and he was asking where I was going hunting. And we actually established a very long-lasting friendship from that one meeting. And he asked me where I was going hunting, so I told him. And he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, good." He goes, "Yeah, there's usually a fair amount of moose in there." Yeah, he says, when you go in there, he said, once you get in there, keep your eyes open. He goes, there's an old miner that lives in there. And you might run into him, and if you do, he'll be able to share with you what the moose situation is like. So I said, cool, I'll do that. Anyways, a few days later, I'm in the area. And I was up there for a couple weeks, and lo and behold, driving down the road, and it's sorry, I wasn't driving down the road. I was excuse me. I was hiking back to my truck, and I was probably a couple miles from my truck, and on a trail, like a really good game trail, I think possibly horses as well. And there's this guy walking the trail in front of me. I guess I had caught up to him. And so I whistled. I didn't want to startle him, so I whistled. And he heard me. So he turns and looks at me, and he turns and looks at me and stops. I give him a wave. So I catch up to him, and he's a small little guy. He's an old man. Like he's old. I mean, again, this was 30 years ago, so I was in my mid 20s, right? And this guy was probably guessing around mid 70s. And he was a short little guy, super long gray hair, gray beard. He was packing an old 30-30 rifle. And anyways, I caught up to him, and he goes, where the Sam hell did you come from? So I said, I was back in the meadows back there up by, it was called Little Lake. I said, I was up by Little Lake. And he says, he goes, oh yeah, what the hell are you doing in there? And I said, I'm moose hunting. And he goes, there's no damn moose in there. And I said, is that right? He goes, nope, you won't see a moose in there. I said, well, I didn't. He goes, well, because there isn't any there. So anyways, we're yakking away, and so I said, hey, I said, by chance is your name Greasy Joe? And he kind of looks at me and he goes, yeah, it is. He goes, who in the hell are you? So I shook my hand, I stuck out my hand, I said, my name's Darren. And I said, nice to meet you. And he goes, how the hell did you know my name? And I said, well, I know so-and-so, the game warden in town. And he told me about you and said I might run into you. And sure enough, I ran into you. And he goes, oh yeah. So we started yakking, the two of us, and he invited me to come back to his place and have a coffee. And I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I went back to his house, and he's got a beautiful log cabin back there on a river. And he's got a gold mine. He had a gold mine back there. And his wife had passed away just like 3 years prior to that. And him and his wife lived back there, and they'd been in there for like over 30 years. That they'd lived in there and mined that creek. And he had like mining equipment, like excavators and a bulldozer and a snow cat and shit like that. And he invited me into this beautiful cabin that he and his wife built by hand. And I'm here to tell you something. He was one of the most fascinating men I've ever met in my life. Unbelievable. I'm like, is there really that much gold up in here or whatever? And he goes over to the counter and he pulls up this coffee can. It was like a metal Folgers coffee can. You know, the big round ones? He pulls it up and opens it up, and it's 3/4 full of gold. Now, 30 years ago, I can't remember what the price of gold was, but it's all relative. And that thing was 3/4 full of gold. And he showed it to me. And I was like, holy shit. Anyways, fantastic, phenomenal man. And I was just awestruck by this guy. And sorry guys, I had a friggin' stick in my pants. I was fascinated by this guy. And I had a coffee with him and stuff, and I saw him that hunting trip. I saw him a few times, and he always wanted to come me to go back and have a coffee with him. So I did a couple of times. But he's a great man, and I just thought, wow, I remembered after I told you guys about him. I remembered that he. I remembered that he, he told me all about his life and what he'd gone through up in that North Country, and it was just fascinating. I was like, oh, I want to be you when I grow up. So it was pretty cool. Greasy Joe, that was his name. Great man. And oh, look at that quartz. Look at that. I'm taking that one with me. There could be gold in that. There's gold in a lot of these creeks here, these little streams. I'm gonna put that one in my pack. I think I'm gonna find a place to sit down here for a few minutes, take a break for a little bit after that steep hike. I've been hiking for about 3 hours now, and I got about another hour to the lake, and then I'm gonna stop at the lake and probably have some lunch and check things out, and then turn around and head back. So I'll take a seat here, and we'll get a couple emails read out. And I'll put this beautiful piece of quartz in my backpack. What a great little spot. Man, it's cool out this morning. Really, old Greasy Joe, what a great man. I'm going to tell you guys a couple more quick stories, because you know what? You guys make comments about you want to hear this and you want to hear that. Well, I'm going to share it. And if you don't like it, piss off. I'm kidding. If you don't like it and you just want to hear emails, people's Bigfoot encounters, well, wait till these go on. Okay, wait till the glasses go on. They're not going on right now. I'm going to share a couple things with you. I've had several really close calls with grizzly bears, but another one that was a pretty crazy encounter. I was moose hunting a few years back. This was after the other time that I almost lost my life that I've already shared with you all. I think it's called Story Time with Outlaw or whatever. It's another video from quite a while ago. But this time we were moose hunting, and we'd shot a moose, me and my buddy. And we're a long ways from, excuse me, we're a long ways from our side-by-side, probably about 3 miles from our side-by-side. So the only way to get the moose out of there was to pack them. And so what we do is we quarter the moose, we process him, we quarter them, and then we take all the meat off the bones, and we put the meat in game bags, put it on our packs, we pack it out. And depending on how many of us there is, it can be 3 or 4 trips. So you're talking if it's 3 miles, it's 3 miles out, 3 miles in, 3 miles out, 3 miles. So anyways, you could do anywhere from 6 to 12 miles packing this moose out to the side-by-side. Anyways, we shot this moose, and I said to my buddy, I said, make sure, we got up to the moose and made sure it was dead and everything. I said, make sure whatever you do that your gun is loaded at all times. And I said, keep your damn head on a swivel and pay attention and listen, watch your surroundings, because the grizzlies hear the shot and they will come in. They will come in, so pay attention. And he said, yeah, you bet. And he wasn't quite as experienced of a hunter as I am, and so I was trying to help him and teach him as well. But anyways, we processed this moose, got all the meat off the bones, and we were starting to pack the bags of meat over our shoulders out of the sort of the thicker willows out into an opening, just a bit of an opening. And we'd made a couple of trips out to this opening because I didn't want to have to go back into the thicker stuff every time for a load of meat. So I said, let's get the meat out to the opening so that we can see it and see if there's any grizzlies coming at us. So sure enough, we did that. And we get a few loads out to the opening of meat, and my buddy's right behind me, and I had my gun on my shoulder, and I had 2 big bags of meat, and I'm walking, and I had to watch my footing because there's snow on the ground, so I'm watching my footing a little bit. And just at the last minute, I lifted my head to look at the opening, and the meat's laying there in the snow in these bags, and I'm only about 50 feet from the meat, And I look up, and there's a grizzly. And he's standing over our meat. And he wasn't eating it yet, but he was standing over it, sniffing the bags. And I stopped. Instantly I stopped, and I slowly dropped the bags of meat down onto the ground, trying to be real quiet. And my buddy's behind me, and I grabbed from my gun off my shoulder, and as I'm reaching my rifle, I turn and I look at him, and he had no gun. He decided that it was too heavy to pack the meat and the gun, so he left his gun back at the moose carcass, which was now 100 feet behind us. So there we are, me and him, huge mountain grizzly, standing over our meat, and we got one gun. And I was just like, holy shit. So I shouldered my rifle, put my rifle up on it, and I yelled, "Hey, bear!" And I give him a whistle, and he reared up on his hind legs. And I mean, standing up on his hind legs, he would have been 10 to 12 feet tall. You know, he was an 8-foot bear, stands up, he's all of 10 feet, 11 feet. And he stands up on his on his hinds, and I got the gun right on his chest. Of course, I don't want to shoot him. And I just yelled some more at him, and he came down on all fours, and he started pounding on the ground with his front paws and throwing his head back, and there's slobber flying off his face, and he's kind of roaring at us, and I was like, shit, here we go again. And I'm yelling at him, get out of here, get out of here. And he's just smashing his head back and forth, and there's slobber flying everywhere. And then he takes he kind of lunged probably at us, probably 10 feet. And I flicked the safety off on the rifle, and I continued to yell at him, and he stopped, and he's looking right at us. I got my scope right on his head, and he's looking right at us, and he just that quick, he just spun around, took off. And I'm telling you, my heart was pounding out of my chest. Literally pounding out of my chest. And we watched him run away, and I was like, oh my God, here we go. Now we got to get all this meat out. This isn't over yet. Thank goodness it was over. He wanted no part of us, and he took off. But it was a hair-raising experience. You know, anytime we have run-ins with grizzlies, it's generally not, oh, look at them, they're so cute. They're not cute, you guys, okay? They are a killing machine, okay? They have one thing on their mind their whole lives, eat, okay? And males, so a male grizzly has, females, same thing, right? They have two things in their mind. Generally, it's just eat. And then mating season, it's eat and reproduce. That's all. That's all they think about. And they will kill and eat anything. So anyways, it was a crazy experience. And one other quick one for you. You guys like stories, and these are real. They're stories, but they're stories of my hunts, right? Anyways, I was probably around 22 years old, and I was moose hunting again, and I was way far away from my truck, and I had a buddy with me, and snowstorm rolled in, bad one, really bad snowstorm rolled in, and it was a whiteout, and started getting towards the end of the day, and I'm like, we got to get out of here, and we started navigating our way out of the bush. And long story short, we got lost like nobody's business. Lost so badly. And what happened is my compass, back then we didn't have GPS, right? There was no such thing. So I just had my compass, and because I was so far north, the magnetic north was all buggered up, and my compass had us going in the wrong direction. And because it was a whiteout, I lost all my landmarks. I lost my bearing, and we should have just stopped, right? We know that now. Should have just stopped, but it was It was, 15 below, snowing hard, blizzard. And we just wanted to get back to the truck. We thought we knew where we were going. We were wrong. And we hiked all night long. Okay. Hiked all night long, and we were screwed. We were lost. So finally, about 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I said, that's it, we got to stop. So we stopped, and I built a little tiny fire. Was able to get a little bit of a fire going, find enough dry wood to get a fire going, and it was still a blizzard. And morning came, and still a blizzard. And we went that entire day. And it wasn't until about an hour before dark the next day that it finally cleared up enough that I could get some landmarks with the mountains and find our way out of there. And man, we were 18 miles from the truck. And so we never got to the truck. I think it was like around 1 o'clock in the morning, because I knew, I saw the mountain that I was looking for. I'm like, okay, geez, we are on that mountain way over there. So we had to basically just beeline it. Couldn't take a compass bearing. We basically had to just beeline it towards that mountain, get to our truck. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning when we finally got back to our truck. And it was not a pleasant experience. The craziest thing of that entire story was my buddy and I are walking along that night, pitch dark, and we're cold, tired. We kept hearing something behind us, and we're like, looked back, and all we had was little mag lights, the little ones that you wear on your belt, and we were trying to conserve them. But the one time I turned to look back, and I turned my mag light on, and there's about 10 sets of eyes behind us. So it's a pack of wolves, and they were right behind us. And so we let off a couple of shots at them, but they would just scatter, take off, and we'd start hiking again, and we'd hear them and turn the flashlight on again, and there they were again. And I couldn't shoot them, I couldn't hit them, so I just shoot in their direction, try to scare them off, to no avail. They followed us for a long ways, those wolves, and it was pretty terrifying. Let me tell you, they're big wolves. You're talking a 180-pound dog, right? They're big. These are big timber wolves up north. So anyways, they finally buggered off. But it was, I had 4 bullets left. I think I shot 10 or 12 rounds at these wolves, trying to scare them off. And I had 4 bullets left when we got back to the truck, and my buddy had maybe half a dozen bullets left. And it was pretty hair-raising, pretty terrifying. So I've had my fair share of encounters out in the woods. Almost lost my life the time that I almost froze to death. And my good old grandpa saved my life. Gord McLean saved my life. And because had he not come and found me, I would have froze to death. I was hypothermic. I forget what stage hypothermia he said I had, but I was unresponsive, unconscious, very, very slow heart rate. My grandpa was in the war, and he wasn't a paramedic, but trained very well in paramedics, because he was in the war, and then he was a logger, owned his own logging company, and so he had some pretty good first aid training. And he said that I was as close to death as a person can get. So I owe that man with my life. And horrible loss the day I lost my grandpa, but I'll see him again one day, and I'll thank him again. Anyhow, there's a few hunting stories for you. I'll try to do that if you guys enjoy it. I'll try to share a few hunting stories with you, because it's my life. Like that's my legacy, is not my hunting. Okay, people go, people that are against hunting, whatever. I don't care if you're against hunting. Don't talk to me. But I hunt to provide food for myself and my family, and I've never bought meat in my life, ever. Never. I've never bought beef in my life. Moose, elk, deer, and fish. And the memories, man. Like some of my some of my greatest memories are out in the woods. I love hunting, fishing, hiking, and all that shit. So anyhow, I could literally probably sit here and talk all day long. And you know what? One day somebody mentioned that in one of the comments, said, could you do like a full day, like whatever, maybe 4 hours of emails and stories, and I will one day. If somebody wants to watch that, I don't care if only it gets 10 views. If 10 people want to watch that and find it enjoyable, that's what I'll do for you. And another person mentioned doing a live. I'm sorry, I am going to do a live. I promise you, I am going to do a live. I just don't know exactly when that's going to happen. I know I keep saying that, but with my personal life work stuff that's just taken place, I haven't had a whole lot of free time, so I will get to that. One more thing before I read this email. In about a week, I am going back into my favorite all-time fishing lake, and I'm going to take you guys along. Okay, this is the spot, and we're going to see if they're still there. This is the spot where I found the bones. Okay, remember I found the bones crossed on the ground on a rock propped up there like this. Remember the bones? And then I looked up on the bank and up in a tree, and there was another set of big bones crossed like this or whatever. I'm going back into that area, and I'm going to see if those bones are there. Okay, this is the spot that Steve is eventually at some point in time going to join me for a hike. If we can ever get our schedules to align, we're going to go for a hike in there together. But I'm going in there next week, okay? And I'm going to spend some time in there. I'm going to bring you guys along. We're going to look for those bones, because that was a significant find, okay? This is a place that nobody goes to, okay? This is a long ways back in the middle of nowhere, and nobody goes there. Those bones were put there. They were placed there by something. And I showed those to Steve. Steve made a post on them. I think I've actually got them on one of my previous videos. I'll check, but if not, you're going to see them if they're still there, because we're going to video that. And that area is where I was a few weeks ago. Not the exact same area. It is one of the central hot spots. A ton of Bigfoot sightings in there. A ton of sightings from the First Nations people that live not far from there, and it's a hot spot. And I know that now, and I'm okay with that. They'll leave me alone. They'll leave me alone, I think. Anyways, so I'm going back in there. I'm going to bring you along. So that's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Lots of things I know we'll get them done. We'll get this live done. We'll do a 4 or 5 hour bullshit session one of these days, and maybe next week when I'm gone for that. I'm going to be gone for a week, right? So maybe next week when I do that, I'll do a good long 4 hour session with y'all or something. So guess what, people that just want to hear an email, it's time. We're going to get into a couple emails here, and I'm going to do a couple. If it's too long, it's too long. So be it. So be it. All right, here we go. Glasses are on. Hi, Darren. I've been contemplating for weeks if I should send you an email about the experiences I've had with the forest dwellers, as we call them here in our little town in Tennessee. I was born and raised in this little town that I will withhold the name of, out of respect for not only the people that live here, but also the people that inhabit our forests. I've lived here my entire life. I'm now 56 years old, so I know these surroundings as well as I know my own backyard. I've been hesitant to email you because I've honestly thought it's more important to leave these people alone and not draw attention to them, as this is exactly what they want. I honestly did not know much about this topic for most of my life, other than hearing the odd report on the news and the odd report on the internet. And I never really gave it too much thought personally. I'm an addict of the wilderness. An addict of the wilderness. Me too. And I'm a hiking fanatic and have completed most of the Appalachian Trail in varying segments. Good for you. On my bucket list. I live just on the fringe of the Smoky Mountains and spend a lot of free time hiking, camping, and exploring these beautiful mountains. As I said earlier, the topic of Bigfoot was never really on my radar, other than the odd news report and a little bit of stuff I've read on the internet. So I never gave it too much thought until 2005. In 2005, I was hiking a very secluded trail in the Smokies that is approximately a 60-mile through hike. And it doesn't see much in the way of traffic, as it is not a main well-known trail. This was a 4 to 5 day hike for me, as usual, I did this trip alone, like I generally do. At the end of the second day of my hike, I had found a good spot to set up camp. It was a spot that had been used in the past, as there was a few small pieces of firewood and a small fire pit there. So I set up my small tent and got ready for the evening. I have never carried any kind of weapon on my hikes, but I do carry a large can of bear spray, as well as 2 small backup pocket cans. I've encountered many bears on my hikes, but I've yet to have a negative encounter with one. So I generally don't worry about them too much. Once I had a camp set up the way I liked, I walked down to the small creek to get water for my dinner. I use a small stove, much like your jet boil, to cook my meals. And once dinner was done, I went back down to the creek to wash my utensils and fill my water bottle. As I was squatted down washing my fork, I noticed a slight movement to my left, on the edge of the creek, about 50 feet away. I turned my head and saw a huge object partially in the creek. I immediately thought it was a large bear, so I remained motionless and just watched. All of a sudden, I saw an arm with a massive hand reach down to the water and scoop up a handful of water to its mouth. That's when I realized this was not a black bear, and my heart began to pound out of my chest. I felt as though time stopped, and I could not do anything except stare at this creature drinking from the creek. It took several handfuls of water to its mouth and then slowly rose. And that's when I gasped and must have made some kind of noise, because this creature/person turned and looked directly into my eyes. I was frozen stiff and not able to move a muscle or scream or anything. I felt like someone or something had taken full control of my body, and I wasn't able to overcome it. I guess it was fear, but at the time, I truly don't remember feeling anything at all. This supersized being slowly stepped out of the creek, but never took its eyes off me. It took maybe 2 or 3 long steps backwards and then turned and faced me as it slowly crouched down again, just as it was when it was in the creek. I can't explain what I was feeling at the time, because I honestly can't remember. I just sat there staring at this thing for what seemed like hours. I was shaking. I could feel my heart pounding. The next thing I knew, this creature was on all fours like a bear, and it crawled towards me to within maybe 30 feet. It then went back into the crouching position and was facing directly at me, staring at me. I could see its face clear as a bell. Its eyes were fairly small in comparison to its head, and they were deep sunken eyes. His nose was very large and laid almost flat against his face. He had very large nostrils that opened and closed every time he took a breath. I could see his mouth, but he never opened it. Not once. It honestly felt like hours had passed, and I was still frozen in my own body, crouched down at the creek, unable to react in any way. But in reality, I'm assuming this entire encounter only lasted maybe a couple of minutes. Eventually, I must have fallen backwards from my crouch and into the creek. But I was still in the crouching position. Just now, I was sitting in water. As I fell over, this creature rose up and made a sound like, in quotations, "Oh ha ha ha." It then leapt across the creek in one stride, probably 20 feet to the other side. It turned back to look at me again, and then broke a large branch off a tree and waved it at me as it literally disappeared in front of my eyes. The second this thing disappeared, I was able to stand up and let out a scream like never before. I began crying hysterically and made my way back up to my tent and grabbed my bear spray. I sat there trying to calm myself down, but I was completely out of control. I cried and yelled and screamed for a bit, but eventually I stopped and thought about what had happened. I do carry a PLB. It's a personal locator beacon on my hikes, but I didn't want to use it because it will dispatch search and rescue as well as a helicopter to your location. After a little time sitting at my tent, soaking wet, I decided I had to pack up and use the remaining daylight to get as far away from this area as possible. So I packed everything up, got on the trail, and started hiking. Needless to say, I was still terrified and constantly looking over my shoulder, but I kept going well into the night. I found myself crying many times, but eventually I'd stop. Finally, a few hours later, I decided I needed to stop for the night, but I knew there was no way I would get any sleep. I didn't even bother setting up my tent. I was able to gather up a little bit of dry wood and get a small fire going. And I sat there with my bear spray in my hand, looking around, just thinking about the creature I had seen. Maybe a couple hours after I had stopped, I started to hear a sound like someone was hitting something, followed by a small, deep moan. My fear intensified as I knew it was this creature again. I had my headlamp and my flashlight, and I kept shining it in the direction of the noise, and finally saw the reflection of the two eyes in the forest, and I could see the outline of something very large, crouched over, just as it was when it was at the river. I kept the light on it, and it would close its eyes, and all I could see was this dark shape. After a few seconds, it would open its eyes, and I'd see the glow again in the flashlight. This happened 4 or 5 times, and I was screaming and crying, "Please leave me alone. Please, please. I'm so sorry for what I've done. Please just leave me alone." I was hysterical and crying, and all of a sudden, this thing stood up, turned away from me, and just walked into the darkness. I waited a few minutes, grabbed my pack, and started hiking again. And I know it's not a good idea to hike at night, especially when you're scared. But I couldn't not stay there any longer. I hiked the rest of the night until daylight. And then I took a little break just to rest, have a snack, and continue the hike back to my car. I got back to my vehicle just before sunset. I started heading home, and when I got cell service, I called my dad to tell him what had happened. My dad was a police officer, and he'd seen things in his career, but nothing even close to what I had experienced. We talked, and Dad told me to call him the minute I got home, so he knew I was safe. I won't bore you with what Dad and I talked about, but he did tell me that he had heard stories of Bigfoot throughout his life, and some as well in his career. When Dad and I got together, we talked a lot about what I experienced. And he was so understanding and so sympathetic. He was a huge help to me. I'm not going to go on and on in this email, Darren, as I don't want to take too much of your time. But what's really crazy is that over the past 20 years since this happened, I've seen these forest dwellers 6 more times. It's been very random. And sometimes years have passed without any interaction at all. Then all of a sudden, I'll be on a hike and see one of them. Most of the time, they are just there watching me, motionless. I carry on and do my thing. They let me pass and continue doing what I'm doing. There's been 2 other occasions that they confronted me and would not allow me to move, speak, or react. I don't know how they can control someone's actions, but I'm here to tell you that they do. They can make it so a person can't speak or move a muscle in their body. I have to believe that they don't mean any harm because they have yet to harm me, but I honestly just wish and pray that they would leave me alone. I've asked God many times, why me? Why did you allow this to happen to me? I don't understand why. I don't understand why they chose to show themselves to me and interact with me, but they have. I feel that they've done the same with you. They've chosen to interact with you. They've chosen to allow you to see them. And they've chosen to watch you in the forests. I must ask you, do you have any explanation for this? Do you have any beliefs as to why? I'd be more than happy to share more with you at some point in time, and I'll leave you my number if you ever want to chat. Please feel free to share this with your subscribers, as I truly feel that it's very important for people to know that these people exist, but more importantly, to leave them be. I know there's these crazy TV shows where people go look for Bigfoot, but they will never see one. These people are too smart. They choose when to be seen and who sees them. That's my opinion anyways. Well, I do feel better to have finally finished an email to you, and I hope others feel better listening to my experience. Thanks for being the voice for so many of us whose lives have been changed by the Bigfoot people. Take care, Darren. All the best. Samantha Everett. Wow. Wow, Samantha. Friggin' shivers up my spine after that one. Holy. Well, to start with, I think there's been quite a few encounters, experiences, sightings, vocalizations, whatnot in the Smoky Mountains. And you are a brave woman. You are a very brave woman to go out on your own. I mean, yes, I do it as well. But you're a very brave woman to go out on your own and do hikes like that, and good for you. I'm glad you're doing what you love. If I had a close encounter like that with one of these people, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've had encounters, but not at 50 feet. I've had them at 100 yards banging trees and throwing shit at me, but and hooting and hollering. But Samantha, wow. And it sounds like the thing did follow you, unless it was a different one, but it sounds like it did follow you. Once again, you weren't injured, you weren't threatened, really threatened. Some will argue that, but wow, my dear, that is something else. That is something else. And you're damn right, I will be calling you. I will reach out to you. Thank you so much for sharing. I will get a hold of you because I want to hear more. I want to hear it all. I want to hear your other encounters detailed. So if you're watching this, I'm sure you are. If you're watching this, Samantha, please send me another email. I want to follow up with you 100%. Scary, scary to put yourself in that person's shoes, right? I always do that. I put myself in that person's shoes, and that is, I did, as I'm reading that, I'm just going, like, could you imagine right now if one of them showed themselves right here and was doing that? I don't have a gun right now. I have my bear spray for cougars, but bear spray ain't gonna do you any good. Thanks, Samantha. I appreciate that, and I hope you're doing well. I will get a hold of you. I might even try to call you tonight. Have a chat with you. I don't know if I should read another one or not. How long have we been going here, you guys? How long have we been going? 35 minutes. 35, 45 minutes. Oh, you know what, you guys? I said I was going to read two, but I'm not gonna. This will be close to an hour-long video by the time I share you with you. It's a little bit of scenery and my hunting stories and Samantha's incredible email. I'll get out. We'll do some more. I promise. We'll next time, maybe next video, we won't do any hunting stories. We'll just hammer off 2 or 3 emails. Okay. And I want to get up to the lake, check things out, and then get out of here. It'll be an all-day deal. And when I get home, I think I'm going to call Samantha up. So have a chat with her. All right. Thanks again, Samantha. I really appreciate you. I appreciate every single one of you people out in outlaw country world. You're part of a great community, every one of you. A great group of people. 10,400 some odd subscribers. And 10,400 wonderful people, amazing people. Thoughtful, caring, kind people. And as I always say, you know what, you guys, be a good person. Okay? Be a good person. Be kind. All right? Life is short. It can be taken from you that damn quick. Okay? Life can end like that. Do what you love to do. Be a good person. Make a good impact on somebody's life. And we're doing that here. We're doing that here, you know. The comments that you make, I try to respond to every single one of you. And the comments that you make, the support that you give to people, the support that you give to these people that are brave to send in emails like that, that's doing a good thing. So keep it up. That's what this channel is all about. Good people. Good people, beautiful scenery, and emails that scare the living shit out of me sometimes. I love these areas and I love the wilderness and everything, but I would be lying to you, and if I said that doesn't rattle me. I'd be lying to you if I said some of those emails like that one didn't rattle me. Like, I'm rattled, man. I'm rattled, and I'll get over it. I'll feel better here soon. I hope. Okay, I'm gonna rock and roll, people. I want you all to take care, be safe, be kind, have a great day, and we'll see you in a few days. Okay, I'm out. Jesus, I was working my way up the bank here. Yeah, I'm heading back out now, trying to get to the main trail, and just right here, just on the other side of this stump, there was a huge cougar. He was sitting down right behind that stump. I didn't see him until I didn't have the camera on. I was hiking, trying to get up the steep here, and he was sitting right behind this stump right here. And I could see his head, and he bolted up the hill. And that's when I actually saw him. He took off up the hill here, and so I grabbed the camera, but I didn't get him on video. And I also grabbed my bear spray. Geez, that's too bad. I wish I could have got that on video for you guys. Yeah, he was a big cat. Big Tom. Make a little bit of noise here right now because last thing I want to do is spook him and startle him or have him come back, right? This is steep, you guys. Really steep country in here. As usual, right? I don't hike flat country very often. I like to work my legs. So I like to get into the steep country. Boy, that was something else. Of course, my mind is on Samantha's email, and I'm hiking along, and all of a sudden see something bolt away from me. Yeah, it makes your heart pound out of your chest, all right. But it was a cougar. 100% it was a cougar. So what you want to do with cougars is you want to always watch your back, right? Which I will be doing the entire way out of here, because they sometimes and make noise. Don't be afraid to make noise, because they will sometimes loop around behind you, and they will stalk you. Don't kid yourself.